Karen, thank you for joining us and making the time to speak with me. How are you today?
Oh, David, thank you so much for having me. I am absolutely amazing. Today, February 12th, is the 116th birthday of the NAACP. So it's our Founders Day. Despite everything else that's going on, it's a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Karen, we have the NAACP Image Awards happening on Saturday, February 22nd, right? Now,
Yes.
tell me, I see Ebony Obsidian, Kerry Washington, and the rest of six Triple Eight's cast. They're up for an award, right? Along with
Five
Henry.
awards.
Five awards. Okay, wow.
Wow.
That's crazy. Wow. And then we also have Henry Louis Gates for Finding Your Roots,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And Coco Jones for her song Here We Go. Tell me, what makes this year's show special?
As the chair of the Image Awards Committee, I think every show is special, but I am really excited about this year's show. One, based on the times that we're in for sure, but also just the amazing projects that have come out. You named six Triple Eight. We have Wicked. We have so many amazing products that have made it to our culture, that have helped to, music that we have swayed to, certainly books that have pierced our thinking, movies that have moved us. And so it's going to be a great show, great talent. And I would just say that with the wildfires that took place a few weeks ago, it will also be an opportunity for us to show support for those that have been impacted by the wildfires, specifically for us, the Altadena community. And we are excited about a fund that we have set up. And you'll be hearing about that all Image Awards week as we look to also get people to contribute as we work to help those that have been directly impacted.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that community service piece as well, helping those in need too, Karen. Karen, now I also understand that you are on the committee that put this whole show together, right? Putting this whole show together, correct? And tell me, what are some of your favorite productions and artists that are being nominated? Because I know there's something that you're like, I really like that, y'all. Come on, we got to put that in there. Or we
Yeah.
got to ask.
Well, as I said, I am vice chair of the Image Awards Committee, but I'm also a co-executive producer of the show, the live show itself. And so, um, what can I reveal? I am excited about a number of the presenters, which I can't really tell you who they are. I'm very excited about some of the honorees, of which Dave Chappelle was announced yesterday as the recipient of the President's Award. So stay tuned for the announcement on who's the Chairman's Awardee, Hall of Fame, as well as our host. We have a new host this year. I'm very, very excited about that. But I think it's really the opportunity for us to all gather. I don't know if you've ever been, and if not, hopefully you will join us one year. But Image Awards is like a family reunion where it's all home week, where people come together and rooting for those who are nominated. Even if people don't win, they are still celebrating those who have. And it's just a really warm family feeling. And it's just an honor to be a part of it, and looking forward to this year's show. And folks should be sure to tune in on February 22nd, like you said, either on BET or CBS.
Mhm. And Karen, I like how you talked about it being a family reunion where there's this space that Black people can come together and celebrate. Now, can you tell me why that's important, given that there has been times where Black people were forced into being into secluded spaces where we could enjoy each other's company?
Yeah, I think it is like really important that, we are recognized in all places and spaces. But the reality is, though, that that doesn't always happen. And let's just look. at the Grammys, and we're so happy that Beyonce won, what is it, Album of the Year, which, something 20 years going or whatever. But we are thrilled that we are able to uplift certainly those names of those who we know because they are widely known. But the thing I love most is the fact that in many instances, we have nominated projects that, may not have gotten all of the fanfare, but is amazing artistry. And because these nominees are voted on by a committee of around 300 to bring them forth, but the winner is voted on by the general public. And unfortunately, voting closed a week ago, but we are really excited because we get to choose those projects that we believe really represent the best of what we have to offer, as well as recognizing those who did outstanding work, whether it be in music, whether it be in literature, television, whether that's podcast streaming and the like. But it's a great opportunity for us to celebrate, lift our own, and let us know that we see you and we love you.
Yeah, yeah. And Karen, I love how you put that where it's not so much only about popularity and people having enjoyed it at a wider scale, but also those that are really making an impact and really doing great things within their particular art. Which leads me to my next question. Why did you all feel that it's important to have categories like costume design, makeup, outstanding literary work? Why would you say it's important to honor those folks that are working behind the scenes?
Thank you for that question. And the other thing I love about being one of the leaders to help shepherd this whole thing for the NAACP, along with my outstanding committee, is because it's important that we um, look at the landscape and make adjustments as necessary. And so it was only 2 or 3 years ago where we introduced the categories of costume design, hair, and makeup. We had been hearing of the challenges of people that look like us getting into the union of these entities, hair and makeup in particular, and knowing that they are critical to a project. And while other shows may have them, a lot of times we aren't being recognized for the artistry that is brought in those areas. And so we introduced these categories, and it has been absolutely phenomenal because I know I am learning a lot. I don't think I really had a true understanding of the impact of what hair and makeup means on a set, and so and let alone knowing who those people were. So to be able to uplift that within the Image Awards has been, really exciting, and people have really been attracted to that. And we look forward to. We generally do it during our fashion show,
Mhm.
which this year we will not be holding because of the wildfires and making adjustments, but we will be presenting them at our Creative Honors on Friday evening.
Absolutely, Karen. And I like how you put that where there was once a time Black people were struggling to get into that industry, of film. But also, too, when you think about it, who better will make a Black person on screen look like a Black person on screen than another Black person?
Tell it. It's so funny because when talking with the creatives in this space and the challenges that they have,
Mhm.
yet what they bring to the table, what I learned was that um, they have to be able to not only do faces that look like ours, but also, you know, others, other people's skin tones.
Yeah.
It's not always the reverse. So you may have someone that don't look like us who has to do our hair and or makeup, which may not have those capabilities. And maybe sometimes you go out looking a little crazy. Or what I found has happened is that some of them will just do it themselves so that they can look the way they know they need to look. So there's a lot that goes into these spaces,
Mhm.
but it's only through by engaging and opening it up that we get to learn. And so we're really, really pleased with working with organizations like Black Beauty Roster and others that really allows us to gain understanding and helps us to get better in terms of ensuring that we are lifting up those that need the recognition and who would appreciate being highlighted for their stories, because they definitely have stories as well.
Yep, yep. And Karen, also, February 12th marks Founders Day for the NAACP. When you think about the work the organization has done over the 100+ years and is still here today, what comes to mind?
Wow, David. We're 116 years old today, and I I am just humbled, David. To be honest, I never saw myself reaching this level within the NAACP. I was just doing work in my local community, but to know that I, along with many individuals today, are standing on the shoulders of those who have come before us. Yet, here we are in 2025 and having to fight some of the same, challenges for things that we thought we had won, can be a bit disheartening, but at the same time, it is fuel to know that we did it before, we'll do it again. And more importantly, as K. Dot said, it's in our DNA, right? We know how to advance. We have royalty inside our DNA, and at the end of the day, we must not be despondent by what we see, but recognize that there are organizations like the NAACP. And listen, we are far from perfect. We are far from perfect, and we can't do it by ourselves. It
Mhm.
really will take all of us working collectively to come together and ensure that we are able to advance, that we're able to hold on to the gains that have been won, but more importantly, to continue to advance us forward, because there's still so much to be done.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, Karen, because it really kind of puts things in perspective of, we should walk with a sense of pride and our heads up high, given what we've overcome.
Yes. And listen, I mean, the truth of the matter is this. If we had not been progressing, if we were not making progress, they would not be fighting us as hard as they are to stop us. And so to watch someone like Kendrick Lamar on the biggest stage, on one of the biggest stages that exists, the Super Bowl, to be so bold and brilliant with his, artistry, where if you know, right? On that stage, I think it's just magnificent, because it is those we are the culture.
Hmm.
We set the standard. People want to do and be what we are, what we have, the way we move, the way we look. But at the same time, they don't want to accept us in many instances, around the tables that matter.
Hmm.
But we will keep fighting, we will keep pushing, because that is where we belong. That is where we are in certain instances. That is where we belong, and that is where we're going to ensure we get to and where we stay.
Yeah, that is powerful, Karen. Thank you for sharing that. I also want to ask too, some people may only be familiar with the NAACP for their civil rights work, right? How does this award show display another side of the organization by highlighting art and entertainment?
Great, you have such great questions, David. I
For our Gen Zers out there, our young folks, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, because this art is a form of advocacy. Art is a way of so W.E.B. Du Bois said that we must ensure that we are seen in the proper light, and it was actually Frederick Douglass who was the most photographed person in America. And at that time, if you look at his pictures, he's always very much distinguished because he said that it was important that our image portrayed, who we were. And so we at the NAACP started the Hollywood Bureau because in the late 80s, because it was determined that in Hollywood, particularly at that time, we were having a hard time being in front of the camera, behind the camera. And it is through our artistry by which people may get a sense of us. And that's why images are so important. And that is why we need to have a balance of images out there, because if the only thing that you see is negative, then, and if you live in some place in the Midwest or whatever, and you don't see Black people, and that's all you see, that may be what you think we are. And therefore, positive images across the board are important. And what is important also to know is that we are not a monolith. We have very diverse stories. And so, yes, we may have stories about in the hood, but I'm so excited because our first development project with CBS is Beyond the Gates. Beyond the Gates is a soap opera that will begin on the Monday after Image Awards on CBS during the day, and it will be a story of a prominent Black family in a gated community. And so that's another side of us, right? And so it's just really important. And, art, as I said, is advocacy messages, make sure our narrative is out there. And so it is also a part of how the NAACP shows up and helps our stories to be told.
Mhm. And Karen, I just want to thank you because you are like literally just taking all my questions right out of my head and answering them. Because my next question was, why do you feel it's important that Black people are shown in a positive light, given that African Americans have been portrayed as incompetent throughout history, right? Where you have it's one of the first films in America being Birth of a Nation, and Black people are being seen
Right.
as these terrorists and, imbeciles, but also in that same era, you have minstrel shows and you have pickaninnies and different caricatures of Black people, that really makes us look as just inferior, to make a long story short.
Yes. Absolutely. And it is the reason why the Image Awards are important. That is why the work of the NAACP Hollywood Bureau is important. And what we know to be true, David, is that while it's important about what is put in front of the camera, it's also important on who is in those writers' rooms, who is behind the scenes green lighting projects, because when they look like us, we can ensure that, the writing is something that is true to kind of what what our reality may be, so that we don't just have one type of show, whether it be a movie or whether it be a TV series, but where there's that diversity so that we can show up in many, many different ways. Not to say that, you can't have, gangster stuff or whatever, but, at the same time, you can also have great projects like Lioness or great projects like 911, those sorts of things. And so, I just name those two because they're up for awards on the 22nd as well.
Did you watch Lioness?
I did.
I really like that show.
Can I tell you, do we now this was the first season, right?
I watched both.
So I saw the first season only maybe back in December. I didn't know that and I okay, I confess, I'm one of these binge watchers. I do better when a show comes on like weekly because otherwise, if all the episodes are there, I will try and spend a day where I'm just watching them all because I get so into it. But I loved Lioness.
Yeah, yeah. And Zoe did such a great job with just taking control and leadership and, standing on business to make a long story short.
Standing on business. Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, Karen, I want to ask when it comes to nominating these different projects and artists and actors, when you all as a committee to have your meetings and you deliberate on who you all may want to nominate, what things do you all take into consideration that makes you all want to say, like, hey, we want to consider this person or this project for this award?
Okay, so let's step back a bit. Our Image Awards Committee is not the vehicle by which the nominees are determined. We have a 300 plus group of selected individuals who range. There's some NAACP peers, but generally they are also people that are from the industry, whether it be literature, recording, movies, TV, those sorts. And so this collective of 300 plus people review the project. So projects get submitted. They may come from the TV studio, they may come from a publicist, they may come from a record company, but they support these projects. And there may be 6,000 projects away. There's a number that come in. And so over the months of probably the beginning of December to maybe the right before Christmas, this committee will go through the various projects and vote for the top five. And then once those are determined, then we have the nominees announcement, which we had this year on January 7th. And that is where the nominees for each of the categories are announced. There's five of them. And then it's open to the public to vote over the course of several weeks as to who the winner will be. So right now, I have no idea what the numbers are, but the auditor is going through all of it, and that is how we will determine who is the winner in each of the approximately 90 categories that we have.
Yeah, it was a really long list. I was like, wow, this is a
Oh, so
lot.
you voted?
I didn't vote. I just looked through it just as reference
Oh, okay.
for our
Yeah.
conversation. So, but yeah, there were a lot of great names on there.
Yeah. I mean, I like to say the categories are stacked. Like for let's pick one, TV drama. It's all the shows that I watch. I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, it really was tough, but you got it. You can only pick one. You can only pick one. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun as well.
Now, Karen, you were mentioning something about social media voting still being available, something along those lines. Can you tell me more about that?
Okay, so um, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, kind of keep one, like I said, being innovative and keeping up with the times. When we started this 56 years ago, there was no social media, right? But over the course of the years, particularly in the last decade, let's say, and certainly in the last 5 years, social media and influencers have been huge. And they really drive a lot of the conversation on issues, on culture, and the like. And so we decided we wanted to be able to, recognize that talent because we should not fool ourselves. It is a talent to be able to have, millions of followers who are tuning in and listening to you and following your direction on different things. And so we started the Social Media Personality Award. And so this year, I'm going to go through the names and you tell me if you know them. So Kai Sent is up.
Sanat, Karen.
Sanat, sorry. Kai
Close.
Sanat, Keith Lee,
Yep.
Rashondra Lias, Shirley Raines, and Tony Baker. Sorry.
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
So those are the five this year. And I must admit, I don't know them. I don't know them all, but generally it's through this process by which I start to follow them and get to know who they are and the impact they're having. And I think, it is still open. People can go to NAACPimageawards.net in
Open
which
it
to
to
be
win.
to the 21st.
Okay.
To the 21st to win. And that Kai guy, boy, I started to hear about him a couple of months ago, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? The young folks would appreciate it. It's a great way to get them involved with wanting to watch the show. But also too, Tony Baker. If this is the same Tony Baker that I'm thinking of, the comedian, watch some of his animal voiceovers, Karen. If you ever get a break during the workday, it's a hilarious little debrief as you kind of rest between your next meeting. It's hilarious, right?
Really?
Yes, watch
Okay.
it. He's from Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, yeah. I think he's from Chicago. But yeah,
Okay.
he's a great guy. But one last question. What does the NAACP want to leave viewers with once this show is over, given so much is happening in the world right now, Karen?
Did you freeze? Uh-oh.
I think you froze up. Oh, okay, it was a little.
David?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Are we good?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good.
I
I'm
asked
here
that
too.
again. I asked that again. But Karen, I want to ask, what does the NAACP want to leave viewers with once this show is over, given so much is happening in the world today?
I think a few things. First, I definitely think that we will want people to know the importance of supporting the Altadena community as they recover. It's a historically Black neighborhood that is rich in culture and definitely will want, us to be in support as they, get their lives back together for sure. I think even bigger than that, the fact that, you know, it is important that we recognize each other, that we support each other, and that we come together collectively, particularly now, to understand that um, we have the power in which to be able to stand and push back on those things that are not in our best interest. Certainly, the elections of 2024 brought us a reality that we are now living in. But what we know is that our ancestors before us dealt with many different challenges, even more significant than now, with much less than what we currently have. And therefore, we are more than capable, but we must work together. We must be strategic in terms of our movements, and we must work collectively. The NAACP is one vehicle, but there are other vehicles, and we're talking together on how it is that we can move together to show our strength and let them know that we're not going anywhere. We are not going anywhere. We're going to stand. This is our country. We have our ancestors who have bled for this country. And we're not even talking about 200 years ago. Hell, people were bleeding and dying only 60, 70 years ago. So I hope people will watch the show. I hope people will enjoy the show, but I hope even more that people will understand that the NAACP has been here for 116 years. We may not be perfect, but we are only as good as those people who join our ranks and really help us to move this country forward.
Absolutely. Thank you for Karen. Thank you for sharing, Karen, and thank you for taking the time to speak with me. That's all I got.
Oh, well, thank you, David, so much for the time. Thank you for amazing questions. And certainly, I hope to be back to talk to you about our convention. That'll be in Chicago in July of 2026.
All righty. Well, thank you so much, Karen.
All right. Thank you. Take care.